Hello, I'm going to do my test and I'll be with you in a moment. Hold on, please. We got to make sure everything's working properly. I hope you had a very nice day today. There's been so much going on. It's just hard to keep up with everything that's going on. We are here. I got it going here, and I just need to check here and make sure we're good here, and then I'll be ready to go. Give me one more second. But there's a lot of news out there. And that's what we try to do on this show is keep you up with the latest and the greatest of everything which is going on. So that is what we're going to attempt to do. Excellent. My name is Lynn David Livesey. I'm your full spectrum Gnostic, and I'm in the house today. This is Encounters. And today we have a very good show for you today. We're going over something that is very pertinent in the news today. As soon as I turn this down, we're going over the immigration, the crisis on the American southern border. And this is something which has been in the news a lot lately. And on this show, we try to explain things that are going on and things that I feel that are not really 100% explained properly. So this is the subject that we're going over today. But this is very important. So as you can see, I have the chart behind me. This chart explains immigration. It's going from the all the way back to the what year is that? My glasses is not very good. From the 1820s all the way up to 2020. You can see that immigration has been an issue for a very long time. This is not something that just started today or yesterday or 2 years ago, and or when Biden got in office or when Obama got in office. This is something that's been going on for a very long time. And the reason this has been going on for a very long time is what we discussed a week or two ago, is because immigration have changed a lot over the years. Our main immigration used to be, as you can see in the chart here, our immigration used to be almost 100% people from Western Europe. And then it switched to people from Eastern and Southern Europe. After World War II, it was back to Western Europe again. But then it totally switched to the way it is now, where we're getting very few people from Europe wanting to come to America. I guess we got too many problems over here. They don't want to come over here anymore. And all of our growth in population has been immigration, most of it coming from not people think that all the immigration we're having is coming from the southern border. That is not true. We have two main sources of immigration today. People that's coming over illegally, that's one set of immigration. But the biggest set of immigration that we have in America is not illegal immigration. Most of the immigration in America are people that came to America on visas, either bridge crossing cards, tourist visas, work visas, student visas. And when their visa expire, they just never go back. Okay. And since no one is actually tracking them down, that is one of the main sources of illegal immigration in America. And this is why it's so hard to tell what is the true number of illegals in this country, because most of them entered legally, okay, at one time. They just never went home, okay. And you can see that immigration been steadily rising ever since. Let's go back to our big chart again. Immigration hit a low point in America after World War II. But as you can see, going up, and especially that giant tower we have on there, that giant peak, that was in 1986. Okay. This giant peak right here that you're seeing, of the immigration spike, That was caused when Ronald Reagan was president. A lot of people remember him. That is when he signed the last immigration bill. And we let a lot of the illegals in the country become residents and become citizens. We had that giant spike. And this is what is the problem with trying to do a new immigration bill. They've been trying to do a new immigration bill for the last 10, 20 years, and nobody interested in doing one because they do not want another spike. Because there is guesses on how many illegals are in America. 9, 12, 15. Some people say as many as 20 million people. Okay. And people say we should do something about this problem, but America and our economy is based on a lot of these illegals who's overstaying their visa across the border is because, as I told you before, America is an aging country. We need younger people in the country. And one of the main ways we get younger people in the country is either let them in on student visas or they come across the border to work and they never come back. And this is a large part of our workforce. Okay. And a lot of people do not want to realize that. But a lot of jobs in America, especially low wage jobs, are done by illegals in this country. Most jobs at processing plants, most jobs, a lot of farm work is done by these people. A lot of unskilled work in cities, maid, janitorial services, things like that. These jobs are filled. A lot of people that work in hotels and things like that, making beds and doing things like that, are done by these people. And there's no way to fill these jobs without these people because these jobs are what is called low wage jobs. And the problem with Americans, we won't work low wage jobs. We want to make money. So even a lot of people in hotels and restaurants and things, there's a lot of people, especially in mom and pop restaurants, a lot of them are the same way. So we have this underbelly of society that works for low wages, and our society is dependent upon these low wage workers. So a lot of people keep saying we should do something to solve this problem. And and if you can see this chart here, people now saying how great things was under Trump and how terrible things was under Biden. As you can see, it's a straight hill. It's a straight climb. Things slowed down slightly, but the climb is still straight up. And the problem that is going to keep going straight up is because as America is aging, we're producing fewer and fewer babies. And it's so, as I mentioned so many times before, it's so bad in Canada, they have open immigration. This is what some people are accusing the Democrats of trying to have open immigration in America. I don't think the Democrats are trying to have open immigration. America is, there's different views on immigration, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Is how come all these people are trying to get in, and we need immigrants. The problem is we want to pick and choose who we let in, and this is why this week today they just announced that they're going to reopen the border to tourism, to people from Europe, Iran, China, like 30 different countries, but not Mexico, not Canada, not Honduras, Guatemala. See that long list of people we don't want, not Haitians, not this, not that. We want to pick and choose. And if these people from Europe come over on a a tourist visa. And if they overstay their visa, we're not going to complain. We're not going to go looking for them. Okay. And what is strange about the list we published today about we're opening the border to tourists, two of the big are two big I guess they were our two big entries. Now Iranians can enter the country. And Chinese. I thought we was in a war with, semi-cold war with China. Now we're going to let Chinese back in. And Chinese is one of the biggest immigration sources there are. And almost all Chinese restaurants, you're talking about very large numbers of illegals. And now we're going to start Chinese immigration again. And most of them come over on tourist visas, this and that, everything else, and they don't go back. But because we want to point the finger, this is the problem we do in America. We always choose who we want to point the finger at as the bad guy. We don't want to point the finger at, people from Europe overstaying their visa. We don't want to point the finger at Chinese people coming over on tourist visas or whatever and not going back. We want to point our finger at dark-skinned people crossing the border. Okay. And who is crossing the border keeps changing. Most people think that the main people that are crossing today are Mexicans. Mexicans is a very low number of the people that are crossing today. First, it was Guatemalans and Honduras. A few years ago, when Obama was in office, you had a lot of Brazilians crossing the border. You had people like from down South America was crossing. Then it got to be Guatemala and Honduras. Today, it has switched to Haitians. Okay. And that is what the thing is they're talking about right now. You got all these people from Haiti crossing the border. Okay. Now, we never get into why these people, they're always crossing from a particular country. And when we had the so-called caravans that everybody was afraid of, and these caravans from Honduras and Guatemala, people wasn't asking the question, why are people from Guatemala and Honduras coming to the border? They didn't want to ask that question. Like today, we don't want to ask that question. Why are tens of thousands of people from Haiti trying to cross the border? Because this is a very simple answer. Even when we was in the good old days, I'm not talking 100 years ago. I'm talking the good old days of, when the economy was doing pretty good, pre-coronavirus. If you lived in some of these countries, life was still very, very hard. Honduras and Guatemala have some of the highest murder rates in the entire world. Okay. That's one thing that was pushing Mexican immigration a few years, like 10, 15 years ago. It depends on the problem we're having in those countries. And when those two countries, Guatemala and Honduras, got devastated by a hurricane, down there, they don't have the resources that we have here. When you get devastated by a hurricane, the government doesn't have the money and the will to actually do anything about it. And when people lose everything, lose hope, and lose their homes and whatever, they start moving around. It is called the Great Migration. And this happened in America several times, like when millions of blacks left the South to come to the North. It happened when, millions of people from Europe left Europe and came to America. You get these giant migrations of people when there's something called problems going on somewhere. Okay. And when you have a problem somewhere in the world, people start to move. This is why in the European migration problem, they was having a lot of people with Iranians and North Africans and things like that, and Somalians and people from Iraq and Afghanistan. They're from the problem areas. And what we like to do, which is convenient, is blame poor people for the problem. But the poor people are not the problem. The problem is like the same reason why I left Ohio and came to Texas. I was not in Ohio dreaming of Texas and how great it would be to move into Texas. I never wanted to live in the South. I had no interest of moving to Texas or anywhere south. But in the late 70s, when the automobile industry collapsed in Ohio, and I went from, the economy every Friday, they was just naming off how many thousands of people each plant was laying off. And I ended up getting laid off and went several months without working. I needed to do something. And I was not just going to sit there and lose everything I had. I was just out of school and I was doing super well. I had cars, I had a credit card, I had this, I had that, I had a girlfriend, I had everything. I wasn't going to lose everything. And when it got super bad in Ohio, I packed everything in my Pinto and did a kamikaze run to Houston, Texas. And it was the trip of no return. There was no ejection seat on that ride. It took every penny I had to get to Texas. And the weeks and months after I got there was pretty rough until I was able to find a job and get on my feet and the whole 9 yards. I was a refugee from Ohio living in Texas. Okay. But Lynn, that's different because it's your own country. But Lynn, I'm going to tell you, it makes no difference. If it's just like what happened in when we had Hurricane Katrina 10, 20 years ago that destroyed New Orleans. Tens of thousands of people left Louisiana and they went everywhere. Most of them, again, went to Texas. Okay. And if you had a major problem in America tomorrow, if Yellowstone was to explode tomorrow, you would have millions of Americans going to Mexico. Okay. You don't know. We know that the weather is screwed up. We know that there's problems all over the world. What we need to do is to work together because we're on the Titanic. And as we have problems, and over the next few years, which I've been telling you, there's going to be a lot of problems. That's what he was talking about today. We're going, the number of hurricanes are dramatically increasing, the number of storms, the number of this, the number of forest fire, everything is getting worse on an exponential level. And what we need to do, if we want to save the population of this planet, is not put one group of people against another group of people. We need to work together to keep the Titanic afloat. Because the Titanic had a few thousand people on board. The USS Earth has 7 billion souls on board. We need to get through this period of change. And as I told you, the next few years is going to be very difficult. This is what Biden was talking about today. For those who's thinking that coronavirus is over, they already talking about the next virus already. I already told you about the next virus, which they're not talking about on the news yet. They're still talking about Delta. They haven't even mentioned Mu. Okay. Mu is already starting to circulate in the world. Okay. They want to keep your mind focused on Delta. Mu is a lot stronger than Delta. And Mu is vaccine resistant. This is why we're trying to get everybody level to 90, 95, 98%, because when Mu hit, it's going to take that number and probably divide it by 2. So if you're down to 75%, 65%. You don't want to cut that in half or by a third. This is why they're trying to get everybody as close to 100%, 98%, 95% as possible. This is why they're talking boosters, everything else, because mu is coming our way. And I know it's people that's thinking this is a global conspiracy, this is the New World Order, this and that, and whatever. The New World Order is not going to these countries telling people to move, to leave everything they have behind. I didn't have the New World Order to tell me to leave Ohio. I didn't have some secret kebab, Bill Gates or these other boogeymen that exist out there. Okay. Telling me or telling other people what to do. But what we need to do is we need to solve these problems. And just like with the problems in Haiti, Haiti never recovered from the earthquake that they had 10, 15 years ago. A lot of people gave money. A lot of people did a lot of things. We sent all kind of foreign aid. We raised all kind of money. What people don't know is most of that money did not reach the Haitians. Most of that money got stolen. Okay. And a lot of people got rich off of that Haitian relief fund. Everybody except the Haitians. And we promised to build homes and schools and everything else. And even after millions and millions of dollars got spent, nothing got built in Haiti. It was just a scam to get money. And I could name names and name people and churches, groups, and everything. Everybody had their hand in the pot. Okay. So the people of Haiti was already suffering. Then they got hit by another hurricane or two. Another earthquake. Then they got hit by a hurricane, and then they had the government collapsed over there, and then it. Okay. And we just been sitting back eating popcorn and watching the show. It's easier anytime you see a disaster in slow motion to say, duh, if we don't do something about it, those people are going to be over here in 3, 6, 9 months. They're going to be knocking on our door. And if we don't want those people knocking on our door, duh, we need to do something about it. And it's always cheaper to handle a problem over there than handle it over here. And for people who's thinking that 100% of those Haitians are going to be sent home, you're going to be surprised. That's what they're telling you on the news. They're deporting all the Haitians. That is not true. Probably 10, 20% of them will be allowed to stay, which is a small number compared to that. You're talking 1 out of 10 or 1 out of every 50, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 8 would be able to stay. We're going to send a lot of them back, but a lot of them will be allowed to stay. And it's going to cost a lot of money. We just absorbed a lot of people from Afghanistan. And we just absorbed a lot of people from Honduras and Guatemala. And we keep doing this because if we see a problem in the world, we need to fix the problem over there. The same way going on in Africa, the same way that's going on everywhere else in the world. It's cheaper if they're having a problem like for example, in Afghanistan right now. We're saying, good, we wash our hands of Afghanistan. We know the World Health Organization already said a lot of the people with money left. We was providing a lot of the seed for the farmers. Now that we left, we're not providing anything. They're predicting starvation in Afghanistan, especially for the people that live in the small, super tiny villages. things are going to get extremely bad. The Taliban have taken over, but just like everywhere else, when a government falls, a lot of time they pull a lot of the money out of the country. So don't be surprised if 6, 9 months from now you're having waves of Afghans crossing into Pakistan and crossing into Iran and crossing into Europe. And people are going to say, why are those people doing that? Okay. This is not rocket science. This has been going on for thousands of years. Really, Lynn? I just thought this just started. No. Let me tell you something you don't know. They've been saying they don't know why Rome fell. I will tell you why Rome fell. You can read it, you can Google this. Everything I tell you is Googleable. Rome fell because of the little ice age they had in 400 AD, around in 300, 350 AD. It started to get super cold in Europe. You could no longer grow wheat above the Danube. That's where all the Germans lived. They were starving, and millions of people from Northern Europe crossed into Southern Europe. So they didn't want to starve. Rome tried to put a lot of these people in, well, in the legions, this and that and everything else, but slowly Rome ran out of money. And when Rome was unable to pay the legions, they're the people who sacked Rome. It was the Goths and the Visigoths, which we call today the Germans and the Poles and those people of Northern Europe. Okay. But this weather changes have happened several times before. This is why the Vikings was attacking all of Europe and taking over Ireland and attacking England and everything for the same reason. Anytime the world climate changes, you have migrations. And around the year 1000, it got cold again. And when you lived in Denmark and Norway, they was no longer able to grow food. And they got on their ships. They wasn't going to starve to death peacefully and quietly. I know we wish everybody would just starve to death peacefully and quietly, but they're not going to do it. Okay. So the Vikings got on their ships and sailed and did a lot of bad things. Okay. They didn't knock on the door and say, we're hungry. I'm sorry. Can you spare some food? No, they had ships. They had axes. They had, oh my gosh. They took what they needed. Okay. I can give you thousands of these examples. Thousands. Every time the temperature changes, every time you have global disaster somewhere in the world, people start moving around. Empires rise and fall. Okay. And this happened in America long before Biden was president. The Azazazi Indians used to live in the Four Corners area. Around 2,000 years ago, they used to grow that desert you call now in the Four Corners, where Arizona and New Mexico and all that is over there. That used to be fertile farmland. And all of a sudden, it dried up and became a desert. And those cities in the desert where the Ayasazi Indians lived, some of those cities had 20, 30, 50,000 people in them. And people think, oh, they just died peacefully. No, they didn't. They moved. I'm going to tell you something you don't know. The same time the Azasazi Indians disappeared in Arizona and in the Four Corners region, they just disappeared. That entire civilization disappeared. A large band of roaming Indians appeared in central Mexico. who we call the Aztecs. They appeared. Okay. No one knows where the Aztecs Indians came from. They just appeared in central Mexico as a roaming band of Indians looking for a home. Read your books. Okay. Now, where did that band come from? And they conquered the area and they took over all of central Mexico. A lot of people now believe that the Azazazi and the Aztecs are one and the same. Google that and see what I'm saying. Okay. People don't die peacefully and quietly. So if they're having problems in Haiti, instead of us talking crazy about we should put machine guns on the border, we should do this, we should build a higher wall. First it was a fence, then they're going to build a wall, and I guess we're going to put laser beams on the okay. Why don't we, if they're having problems in Haiti, why don't we help the people in Haiti? It's cheaper to help them over there than to have them over here. And if they're having problems in Honduras and Guatemala, it's cheaper to help them over there than to help them over here. And the next time there's a disaster, you know there's going to be a next time. We're in the end time. Duh. You got that book. It's in your house. You're supposed to be reading it. We're in the end times. Oh, you didn't know that. You just been informed. So the shit is going to hit the fan a lot over the next 10, 20 years. And we're going to have to do our part to hold the ship up because it's not going to always be them over there. It's going to also be us over here. And this is why in the last few years, you keep saying the same cities keep like Houston keep having 100-year floods every other year. Okay. It's supposed to be 100-year floods because Houston was a swamp that they drained to build a city. Okay. And I guess it's trying to become a swamp again. I don't know. That's the reason they got so many pumps. The same with New York City. Most people don't know. Half of Manhattan Island is claimed land that was from the East River. That's why the pumps in New York City have to run 24 hours a day to keep the city dry. What are we going to do when sea levels start rising? New York doesn't have a seawall. And now you see several times in the last few years, the subway system in New York City, it looks like a sewer system. Okay. And this is going to keep happening more and more and more because it's trying to turn the island of Manhattan. It was a swamp island of mostly swampland. We decided to put buildings on it, very tall buildings, and drain the swamp. Same thing they did in Hong Kong. The same thing they did in thousands of other cities around the world. Okay. Now it's coming back to bite us. Okay. Maybe we shouldn't. Same thing in Mexico City. Mexico City was a big lake. They drained the city. They drained the lake and they built a city that now has 19 million people in it. Okay. Maybe that wasn't the smartest thing to do. It's too late now. But we need to give a damn and we need to do our part. And people say, hey, we don't have the money, we don't have this. What goes around comes around. And remember, we're in a global economy. Back in the good old days, 100, 200 years ago, if something happened halfway around the world or in India and whatever, you can say, I don't give a flip what's going on over there. We found out when coronavirus came in China and people said, I don't give a what happened. And it didn't start with coronavirus. It was the same thing with SARS, with a bird flu, swine flu, all this other stuff. It's anything today crosses the world like there's no tomorrow. Okay. because people are jetting and flying everywhere. Okay. And now that we got the permafrost melting in Russia and in Canada and in Alaska, and people going in the rainforest and doing all this stuff, any outbreak of any disease, and we got a lot of very bad diseases in Africa that you haven't even heard about. Okay, you heard about Ebola, but there's also Marburg and all other very strange stuff. And if any of that get out of Africa, we're really going to be in bad shape. There's a lot of these hemorrhagic fevers out there. And that's why America freaked out when we just got one or two cases of Ebola in America. Think about if we had an Ebola outbreak in the world, like we had in Sierra Leone, and in Africa. Ebola is hemorrhagic fever. You bleed out of the front, the back, the mouth, the ears, everything. You just basically collapse into a bowl of goo. That's not a good way to die. Okay. So we have to be prepared, and we have to do what we got to do to get through these tribulation times. And is Jesus coming back? I don't know. He haven't whispered in my ear. Maybe, who don't, and if when he's coming back, we can't do anything to speed it up. So if we build a third temple or don't build a third temple, it's not going to speed it up, because this is God's timetable, not man's timetable. So if we build the third temple and do all this crazy stuff some of these people want, it's not going to speed him up. He will come when he's ready to return. We just have to survive what is going on now. And we all must do our part. And as I said, what goes around comes around. Right now, we get to watch the disasters happening halfway around the world. It's sooner or later, they're going to be watching halfway around the world the disaster going on in America. You know that, and I know it. Okay. So we need to be humble. Okay. We need to be humble, because you can easily say, I don't care. And when your house is underwater, and when forest fires have destroyed your livelihood and your house and your everything, or whatever, or tsunami waves, or whatever is going to happen. But we are guaranteed we're going to have a lot of bad stuff going on in the future. And we need to save as many people as they can. So before I go any further, since I was rattling for a long time, let's see if anybody have anything to say or whatever. Okay. So another thing I want to talk about. They're doing the same thing with the Haitians that they did with the Guatemalans and Hondurans, that we did with the people everywhere. We're playing a game that people don't know about. This is another reason I want to talk about this. Because a lot of people are not aware of the game that they're playing. This is why I chose this background to this show. You see, there's a lot of children behind me. Okay. Anytime they have these disasters and you got people rushing the border, normally we keep the kids, we keep mothers and kids. 99% of the time, we send all the men back. And if it's an older woman, we send them back too. We keep the younger women and we keep the kids. Okay. And this is why, especially in Texas and California, all the border states, one of the big things that people do as jobs here, there are centers that are full of thousands of kids. And they house the kids in these giant dormitories. Okay. And it's not like they're being kept by their parents. They're being fed by the state. fed by the state, this and that, because they got to get that. They're slowly, they're doing the same thing to these Indians, that to these immigrants, that they did to the American Indians, that they did to the Indians in Canada. They took all their kids away and put them in schools. They was trying to get that Indian out of them and convert them. Okay. And this is what we're doing. That's why a lot of time we keep the kids. And they might be Guatemalan, Honduran kids, this and that, and everything else. But when we get finished with them, they're going to be American kids. Okay. That's why we send the dads back, the older moms back. We are converting them. Okay. But we're purposely breaking up families. We're purposely doing, if somebody took your kids, this is the same thing we did in Africa. We didn't bring all the people from Africa over to America. We only took the kids and the young. The old people, they either killed or didn't want. Sending slaves across the ocean was very expensive. We're doing the exact same thing. This is modern slavery. We're doing the exact same thing. We're just not using slave ships. It's not right. Because if we should keep the families as much together as possible. I know some of these people are gang members, this and that and whatever, but if they're not gang members and whatever, why we take the kids away and deport the parents? Or if mom is very young, we will keep mom and the kids. But a lot of time, even if we keep mom and the kids, we only let her keep her baby. Sometimes we even take the baby away and we split the mom up. If she's a young woman, we split her apart from her kids. This is called family separation. We found out about this under Trump. Trump was very bad at this, but this was going on even before Trump became president. This was going on. Okay. The only secret between Trump and before Trump and after Trump, with Trump, it was public what he was doing. Now that Trump's out of office, they're okay. It's still not right. You can't take people kids away. And I guess once you take their kids and send them back to Honduras or send them back to Guatemala and Nicaragua or El Salvador or wherever you're sending them to, I guess they can file a protest letter or whatever, but who's going to read the damn letter? Okay. This is very, very bad. Very bad. Okay. Because this is what we need in America. I told you before, we need babies. We need workers. We need those kids. We don't want daddy. Normally, and a lot of times we don't even want mommy, unless mommy is very young. Okay. So this is bad. Most people are not aware of this. And this is going on a lot. And these centers they have, a lot of these centers was supposed to have closed when Trump left office. They haven't closed them. They have expanded them. Okay. But most of the men they don't want, because what you gonna do with a 30-year-old man from Honduras or a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old man from Haiti? What you gonna do? He can't really get a job, He doesn't understand our society. There's nothing you can really do with him besides give him welfare or whatever, or you do sweep floors. He can't really do anything. That's why they send him back. If it's a young mom, as long as the baby production is we need population growth in America. Okay. So a lot of these kids you see in this picture is going to, they made it in, but they lost their parents is the price of them coming to the U.S. border. Okay. So, and a lot of bad things happen to these kids, especially teenagers. Okay. You know, maybe I shouldn't be saying this because, there might be young people listening or whatever, but, they estimated, especially in young girls, that at least 25% of them was raped or sexually assaulted or whatever on their journey to get to the border. And even once they're here, I would hate to say this is the wizard, the land of Oz once you cross into the United States. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I would be lying to you if I told you that. And even once they're here, a lot of illegals, even they estimate 20-30% of all women in America have been sexually assaulted in their life. When you're illegal, that number gets skyrocketingly high because it's not like you run into the police. Okay. It's just fresh meat. This is very, 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 very bad. We need to clean up our act. And we like to go around the world and talk about human rights and the rights of women and this and that and everything else. A lot of people haven't been to these. America got brothels. We got prostitution is not legal in America, but the number of prostitutes across America and the women that's in forced sexual, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Just Google this if you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. It's super bad. And 90% of these times when these people go to the police or whatever, they just deport them. There's supposed to be programs to protect these people and whatever, but it's too much money, it's too much work. It's just easier to kick them out. Okay. Is this what the future going to be like? Is this what we want to? Is this what America's going to? Is this what the world's going to be like if we survive this? These end times, we're going to turn into, either you're, where we're living in some kind of Blade Runner future or Judge Dredd future, where either you're super rich living in a building 200-300 stories tall, or you're just in the multitudes of people at the bottom, just trying to do anything you can just to survive another day. That is not the future they promised us. That is not the future that we worked hard for. And as we talk about America's land of the free, home of the brave, we need to do better. It's different when this stuff happened in those little weird countries over there. You're like, well, those countries kind of weird anyway. That's why that stuff is happening. But there's no excuse for this stuff happening in Europe, happening in America, happening. Oh, you should hear some stuff that's going on in Europe. Oh my gosh, some of these countries. They even have, models in the window. You can go to the window and pick out the one you want in the window. Okay. I'm not mentioning no countries by name or anything, but people know what I'm talking about. Okay. And Eastern Europe is very bad. Okay. So we need to survive this. We are in the end times. We don't know how long this hell on earth is going to last. If it's going to last another year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. Is Jesus coming back? Is the back deeds coming? If we're going to go to the fifth or fourth or fifth dimension, I don't have the slightest idea. Okay. I just know that we just have to survive. And we need The world population is 7.6 billion people. It would be a shame if 100 years from now we're down to 4 billion, okay, or 5 billion. Okay. Because we need, remember, I keep saying this over and over and over again. We are all human beings from the planet Earth. And that little girl behind me, she might grow up to be a prostitute. She might grow up to be a nurse. She might even grow up to be the president of the United States of America. So you just can't be throwing people away. She's precious. Okay. We need to protect her, no matter what country she's from. You can see it in her eyes. She has a future. She has a life. I'm an old man. My candle is not as big and strong as it used to be. But you can see in kids' faces. Okay, they are the future. But it's up to us to design what kind of future we're going to give to them. Are we going to give them, we was handed a paradise planet. We can't hand that to her. Definitely not. But we don't have to hand her a living hell. Okay. So we need to treat these people right. We need to show them decency. We need to do a lot of things. Okay. And remember, the Bible says what you do to others will be done to you. And all these people that go to church on Sunday, this and that and everything else, a lot of these people are the same people that's yelling, hollering, and cursing about what we should do to all these people. They're not trash on the border. They are people who are in need. And if we quit playing this game, and if we don't want them on the southern border, on the northern border, or whatever, we can take care of that problem over there. It's cheaper, a lot cheaper to feed people in Haiti and try to solve the problems in Haiti instead of trying to solve Haitian problems on the southern border. Same thing goes with Guatemala, Honduras. The same thing goes with people from Afghanistan or Somalia or whatever country you want to talk about. Okay. It's easier to fix it over there. Because all of this is leading the world towards strife and the next war. Biden said war is over. And for the first time, America's not at war. Most people don't know in the history of America, there's only been like 20 years of our existence of a country that we have not been at war. Though this peace is not going to probably last too long. Because the military industrial complex in America, weapon production is one of the major industries in America. And if we don't have a war somewhere in the world, a lot of these big giant corporations they're going to have to shut down. So they're going to make sure there's going to be another war with China or with somebody. They'll think of an enemy if they need to. Okay. They don't care. It's just making money. But the last president to talk peace, Biden is talking about peace. The last president that talked peace was George H. Walker Bush. Okay, and he was talking about when the Iron Curtain fell, how the age of war has ended, and we was going to start a new world order of peace and all this stuff, and that didn't work out too well. Okay. Now we have another president talking peace. It probably won't work out too well either. You understand what I'm saying? It's too much money to be made. We can't let these peace people get in our way. Okay. People talking peace, we gotta get rid of these peace people. We need to put some warmongers in there so we can make a lot of money. So This podcast was about trying to get you to open your eyes. This is what encounters is about. This is the symbol of encounters, the compass. Because what we try to do on this show, I run two shows. I run the Knowledge from Beyond, which is about telling you things you don't know about, secret society stuff, and encounters. Encounters is to let you know what is going on that they may probably not talking about it on the news because they don't want you to know about it. And the only thing they want you to know about the problem on the southern border is there are a lot of darkies trying to get into America. Okay. And we're not talking that because it doesn't make any difference what color they are. Okay. They're human beings. Okay. And if you saw the pictures of some of these people from Honduras and Guatemala, a lot of these people, some of them had, not all of them was dark. Some of these people was had, you know, they looked at European. Okay, because people from all over the world, just like if you look at America, just like you look at everywhere, you can't just look at one group of people and stereotype people. We are a race of mixed people, especially in the Americas. Okay. So if you have some humanity, I can't go to the border and solve that problem down there. You can't either. What we have to do as a human being is do our 2 cents worth. And you need to do your 2 cents worth to help the problem that they're having there, to help your neighbor, to help those hurricane survivors, to help. You got to do your 2 cents worth. And then you can say, I did my part. Okay. You keep 98% there. I'm not asking for 10%. That's the church. I'm saying you have to do your 2% to help make the world a better place. And if you do that, I guess the world would probably be a better place. I'm Len David Livesey, your full spectrum Gnostic. You need to think about what I'm saying. Google everything I said. You will see I'm not talking crazy. Everything I say, you can look it up and read about it. I hope to see you again. You can always find me on my podcast on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Sundays, and also I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. Okay, because last thing I will say before I go away. I've been talking too much. I'm getting tired. Bible says in the end there will be a lack of the word. Okay. I'm letting you know what is going on. It's up to you to either say I care or I don't give a damn. That's up to you. Hope to see you again very soon. If there's anything I can do for you or whatever, contact me and let's try to make the world a better place. Thank you so much. Bye.